Hi there, I'm Machine Pun Kelly, aka MPK, and today I want to dive into the history of fascism and the many fascist traits Donald Trump has. You've heard that you can't shout fire in a movie theater, but that only applies if there is no fire. If there is a fire, it would be immoral not to shout fire. Similarly, we shouldn't be careless with the word fascist, but we would be remiss if we just watched it happen with no warning. So it's crucial we really try to understand if Trump is in fact a fascist. So let's dive in. In the annals of history, fascism didn't emerge fully formed overnight. It began with intentions, rhetorical flourishes, promises of national rebirth, and vows to crush perceived enemies. Benito Mussolini, the founder of fascism in Italy, and Adolf Hitler, who adapted it into Nazism in Germany, both started with words that signaled their authoritarian designs long before they consolidated power. Mussolini's intent was to revive a mythical Roman Empire through ultranationalism and suppression of dissent, declaring in 1919 that we must act with violence against socialism and liberalism. Hitler, in his early speeches and Mein Kampf, outlined plans for racial purity, Lebensraum, through expansion, and the elimination of internal enemies like Jews and communists, framing them as threats poisoning the nation. These intentions weren't mere hyperbole. They were blueprints for totalitarianism. Fast forward to 2025, and Donald J. Trump, now in his second term as President of the United States, has articulated intentions that echo these historical figures in unsettling ways. This narration explores not what Trump has accomplished, constrained as he has been by America's democratic institutions, but what he has explicitly intended through his rhetoric, policy proposals, and stated plans. Drawing from scholarly analyses, we compare Trump's expressed desires to those of Mussolini and Hitler, focusing on themes of nationalism, institutional subversion, scapegoating, cult of personality, and the glorification of violence. As historian Ruth Ben-Ghiat notes, fascism thrives on the leader's intent to erode norms, even if full realization is thwarted. Mussolini's fascism was born from intent to centralize power under a strongman, rejecting parliamentary democracy as weak. In his 1922 March on Rome speech, he vowed to make Italy great again by dismantling unions, controlling the press, and enforcing loyalty to Il Duce. His doctrine of fascism in 1932 explicitly called for the state to absorb all aspects of life, with violence as a purifying force. Hitler mirrored this, intending from the 1920s to create a totalitarian regime where the Führer's will was law, as outlined in the Nazi Party's 25-point program, which demanded the abolition of treaties like Versailles and the subjugation of inferior races. Trump's intentions parallel this in his repeated calls to drain the swamp and overhaul the federal government. In his 2024 campaign and 2025 inaugural rhetoric, Trump has expressed intent to reinstate Schedule F, a policy from his first term aimed at reclassifying tens of thousands of civil servants as at-will employees, allowing him to fire those deemed disloyal. This echoes Mussolini's intent to purge the Italian bureaucracy of opponents, creating a party state where loyalty trumped expertise. Trump's Project 2025 blueprint, endorsed by his allies, outlines plans to dismantle agencies like the Department of Education and weaponize the Justice Department against political foes. As Atlantic writer Anne Applebaum describes, this is a regime change towards authoritarianism, with Trump intending to replace merit-based governance with personal allegiance. Unlike Mussolini or Hitler, who dissolved parliaments outright, Trump's intent is subtler, eroding checks through executive overreach, but the goal is similar: unchecked power. Ultranationalism formed the core of fascist intent. Mussolini's Italy First ethos promised a palingenesis, a national rebirth, by scapegoating immigrants and internal traitors. Hitler took this further, intending to purify Germany through eugenics and anti-Semitism. As evidenced in his 1933 speeches, labeling Jews as vermin and immigrants as poisoning the blood of the Volk. Trump's Make America Great Again slogan embodies a similar intent for national revival, harking back to a mythologized past. His 2015 campaign launch infamously labeled Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals, intending mass deportations to secure the border. By 2025, Trump's rhetoric has escalated. He has spoken of immigrants poisoning the blood of our country, directly mirroring Hitler's language, and vowed the largest deportation operation in American history. In recent statements, he has declared inner cities a big part of war, signaling intent to militarize domestic policy against urban, often minority-heavy areas. Scholars like those in foreign affairs see this as a path to competitive authoritarianism, where Trump's intent is to frame diversity as a threat, justifying suppression. While Hitler intended genocide, Trump's plans for camps and military involvement in deportations reveal an authoritarian bent, not humanitarianism. Fascism's intent was always about enemies, internal and external. Mussolini planned to crush socialists, Hitler, the Jews. Trump's repeated calls for retribution against the deep state and radical left echo this. He has intended to undermine elections, claiming they are rigged unless he wins, and promising to terminate parts of the Constitution if needed. His 2025 plans include firing prosecutors who investigated him and using the military against enemies within, as stated in interviews. This mirrors fascist intent to personalize justice, loyalty over law. Labeling opponents fascists is ironic, but Trump's own words, like calling the press enemy of the people, align with historical suppression tactics. The cult of personality is another key intent. Mussolini demanded oaths of loyalty, portraying himself as infallible. Hitler's Führerprinzip made his word divine. Trump's rallies foster similar devotion. "I am your retribution," he declared in 2023, intending to position himself as the sole savior. In 2025, he has demanded loyalty pledges from military leaders, echoing fascist purges. His inner circle competes to work towards the leader, much like Nazi officials. Economic and foreign policy intentions also parallel. Mussolini intended corporatist economics, favoring elites under populist guise. Hitler planned autarky and alliances with authoritarians. Trump's tariffs and America First isolationism intend to reshape trade, while praising dictators like Putin and Kim signals intent for authoritarian partnerships. His tax cuts and deregulation, despite drain-the-swamp rhetoric, intend to benefit corporate elites, much like fascist corporatism. Violence underpins fascist intent. Mussolini glorified squadristi thuggery. Hitler, the SA. Trump's praise for very fine people at Charlottesville and incitement of January 6th reveal intent to normalize mob action. In 2025, suggestions to use the military against protesters underscore this. His intent isn't systematic genocide, but normalizing force against dissent. To deepen the analysis, consider Trump's intent on media control. Mussolini intended state propaganda, Hitler, Goebbels' ministry. Trump's fake news label and threats to revoke licenses intend similar chilling effects. His 2025 plans include suing outlets for disinformation, mirroring fascist censorship. On gender and society, fascists intended traditional roles. Mussolini's battle for births, Hitler's Kinder, Kuch, Kirk. Trump's alliances with anti-abortion extremists and rhetoric against woke culture intend to roll back rights, as per Project 2025. Environmentally, Hitler intended exploitation for war. Trump, deregulation for profit, intending to drill baby drill, despite climate crises. As Verfassens blog notes, it's sliding into quasi-fascism. Trump's intent on elections involves preemptively challenging results, echoing Hitler's 1932 tactics. His foreign admiration intends alliances with figures like Orban, echoing Axis packs. His military plans intend domestic deployment like Mussolini's black shirts. America's institutions checked him in his first term, but intent persists. Project 2025 eroded them. Amnesty International warns the Trump effect accelerates global authoritarian trends. In conclusion, Trump's intentions, national rebirth via scapegoating, loyalty over law, and rhetorical violence, echo fascist blueprints. History teaches that ignoring such signals invites peril. Vigilance is key. It's more than fair to say that the proverbial movie theater is on fire. Looking at the historical precedent shows that Donald Trump is at best a quasi-fascist and at worst a full-fledged fascist. We have a responsibility to warn people about this. The morally correct thing to do is to shout fascism. Once again, I'm Machine Pun Kelly, aka MPK, and thanks for watching. If you learned something, please click like and subscribe.